across the World Wide Web, on your mobile devices, on social media platforms. This is Jambo Radio! www.jamboradio.co.uk. We are multilingual. We are conversational in the languages you best understand. We are Jambo Radio! Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
Good evening and welcome back to Love on the Stereo with me, your host Holly from Swipe Right HQ, which is Scotland's premier dating agency for the Afro-Caribbean community. So guys, it's Friday. If you were here last week, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Holly. I'm a fabulous baby girl. You know, I bring you dulcet tones over the radio, and I just welcome you to this Friday. I know that all of you are young and beautiful, and even if you're not, I don't know what camp you're in, but I know that your Friday could be used for other things. So thank you for joining us tonight. And tonight's show is titled Heartbreak Hotel, which, if some of you know, it's an Elvis song, you know, that guy, right? And in that song he says like something like this hotel is always crowded, but everyone here is lonely. And I just thought, what a poignant point, because you can be in a room filled with people and you can be feeling even lonelier than if you are like alone at the top of a mountain or something. But don't worry, tonight's show isn't all doom and gloom and feeling sad because it's about heartbreak. No, we're gonna do some, I was gonna say talk therapy, but that's not what we're here to do. No, even though heartbreak is tough, and you know, we're not going to wallow in the sorrow, we're here to chat about how we can find our way through the darkness and towards healing. So to be honest, like whether you're nursing a fresh wound or whether your breakup happened back in the Jurassic era and you're still holding on to that pain, or maybe you're curious, maybe you've never dated before. And listen, disclaimer, if you've never dated before, anything that you hear tonight, I hope it doesn't put you off, because, you know, don't let the fear of failing stop you from trying, you know, as those people say. But yeah, whether you're in any of those camps, I hope that you're listening today and you can, you know, join us for the journey, whether you take some advice, whether you're here for a laugh and maybe a cry. I don't know your situation. Do you know what I mean? Grab a drink, a stiff one, grab a pint of ice cream. I'm not here to judge. You know, we're spending Friday together. Just join us and we'll have a good time. We'll be dishing out some serious wisdom, obviously. Like, who's coming to this show and not receiving wisdom? Amen? I hear amen in my ear. Don't worry if you didn't say it. But most especially tonight, among the wisdom, among the chat on sorrow, I'm joined by a special guest tonight. Her name is Sharmila, and she has risen like a phoenix from the ashes from a terrible breakup, and she's here to give us some tips of how she did that or where she is at with that. So I hope that if you're listening tonight and you're in a similar position as Sharmila, or maybe you've just come out of that position, maybe call in tonight and check in on her or tell us how you're doing. We're happy to hear that. So I hope you join us this evening for the rest of the show. And you can always catch Love on the Stereo here on Jambo Radio Scotland, on DAB in Glasgow and in Edinburgh, or you can download the Jambo Radio Scotland app from the Apple Store and on Google Play. Sorry. You can also watch this show live on Facebook, shout out Mark Zuckerberg, and at the Jambo Radio YouTube page. It's called Jambo Radio Scotland. You can also, if you want to join the conversation, call us on 0141 530 2787, or you can text us or leave a voice note on WhatsApp on 0745 990 6822. We're on all the socials. Do you know what I mean? We're connected. We're global. We're here. And you can message us on Facebook at Jambo Radio Scotland, or on Swipe Right HQ, which is to myself and the team, or on X. You can send us a tweet at Jambo Radio 1, and on Instagram we are at Jambo Radio Scotland, or you can follow me and the other love gurus on Instagram at swiperight.hq. Also, if you want to email in a query or maybe a story, we can read it out for you. You can do that directly at info@jamboradio.co.uk, or directly to me at hq.swiperight@gmail.com. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. We'll get kicked off into the show. And also, I just like to congratulate all of us for making it through another winter, because as me and Sharmila are waiting downstairs, we noticed, we were like, it's really light outside. What's going on? You know, the darkness is starting to lift inside and outside. So I hope everyone in Scotland can feel the joy coming out. And I think that maybe if we want to get deep about it, we can connect the darkness lifting to when you're getting out of the breakup. You know what I mean? When you start to see the light. Amen, right?
Amen.
Guys, I'm doing something. I'm doing something. So basically, tonight's about heartbreak. We're talking about maybe the different stages of it, how to overcome it, or maybe you're not overcoming it. You just want to hear that someone else has been through that. And so I'll paint a little picture of maybe what is heartbreak, you know. So I would say something that happens. It could be, you know, in a relationship, or something as small as maybe your team has not won for several months. I don't know. I'm not here to define that. But basically, the thing that you didn't want to happen has happened. And maybe it was a mutual breakup, or maybe you feel like it's come out of completely nowhere. You're confused. You're looking over the last few months. You're like, oh, what did I do? You know, you're replaying it in your head. You know, is there someone else? All these things. Whatever it is, it's happened. You and your person are no longer together. So what now? I think the first stage is understanding the pain. So on that note, I would like to introduce our guest for tonight, which is the beautiful, the lovely, the wonderful Sharmila. And she is originally from Sri Lanka, but she was born in Sri Lanka, but she's raised, and she's a proper Glasgow lass, as we can say, and a Glasgow lass through and through. And she is still currently based in Glasgow. So, and then also, I will say, I asked her, hey, tell me about yourself. And then she was like, I'm just a girl in the trenches. No, I'm just a girl in the street that feels like the trenches looking for a husband. Do with that what you will. But ladies and gentlemen, my guest for tonight, welcome Sharmila.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks
Anytime.
for your Friday. Very appreciative. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we kick off for tonight.
Well, like you said, I'm just a girl out here navigating life, trying to see what I can do with it, making memories, trying to get through. And as you said, as the topic of this conversation, heartbreak has got me right now. So I'm just trying to go through the motions, trying to heal, trying to make sure I'm doing the right steps, moving forward, not repeating bad mistakes, and come out the other end a bit stronger, maybe a bit better, maybe like going into another situation, a bit a healed version of myself, you know.
Love that.
Yeah.
And you know, I think you're the perfect guest, because today the title is a conversation on healing, and who better than someone who's literally going through that right now. And you know, you don't need me to tell you, but heartbreak can really take an emotional toll on your body, physically, emotionally, mentally, all the kind of ways that your body functions. Heartbreak will touch on that. And you know, it can be almost an intense sadness, like grief, and that might sound a little bit dramatic, but it can feel like someone has died, because of course someone has left your life and you no longer have access to them. And it's not just that someone you don't have access to, it's all the hopes, the dreams, the jokes, all those things, the plans, all those things are now suddenly out of the window. And that's what you're really grieving, and it can lead to so many different intense feelings. So just before I kind of go through what that could look like, I want to ask Sharmila, how did you first deal with the heartbreak, and why or how did you get through it?
I think I'm still going through it, I'll be honest.
Valid.
So I'm still going through it. I'm trying to be a bit I'm trying to deal with it a bit better than I first went through it. So originally I think I shut off from the world. I think one of my toxic traits, you know, we love to we love a toxic trait. We love a babe who knows about herself, aware about her traits, you know. So I would say one of my love languages is quality time, and one of the ways I'm toxic to myself is isolation. So when I'm going through it, I really do isolate myself from the world, from people, my loved ones. So originally when I was going through the heartbreak, as when it was really fresh, I cut off from people. I didn't really text back. I didn't really socialize, and I'm slowly coming out of the trenches and trying to like reach back out. Like I know the support is there, so I'm trying to reach out back out to my friends and spend some time. The weather is helping, like you say.
Listen.
It feels like a dark cloud has lifted.
Amen.
And I'm here for it, because even just coming out of work and seeing not seeing grey dark skies is making me want to socialize a bit more, making me want to go out a bit more. So it's those kind of things. I think it's like mostly just like covered myself with like love, basically. My friends have been like my rock through it, and I really love their support for it. So yeah,
amazing. You know, as Sharmila has just said, there is, I think she's saying things without saying things, but I think we can all take what that means when someone isolates themselves. You know, what leads someone to shut themselves away from the world? It can be a plethora of things, you know, anxiety and stress. You know, did other people know about this breakup coming? You know, embarrassment, you know, you're hiding from the world, all those things. It could be depression. You know, some of you have watched Twilight, and you know that scene where Bella Swan is sitting on the chair looking out the window, and months are just going past her. And you know, obviously she didn't sit there for months, but it means that it's exactly what Sharmila was talking about, which is sitting in your room alone, and even though the world is just going past by you, and it is a form of depression. And again, some people might think, oh, it's trivial, you're broken up with your boyfriend, it's not that deep, but it really can be that bad. And then, you know, there can come anger and resentment to be like, hey, yo, like, why me? What did I do? Why was I not good enough? All these things can lead for you to, you know, in a toxic way, try and hide yourself away from the world, to be like, let me figure this out myself. But really, you're just punishing yourself. And, you know, there's a lot of self-doubt in that, insecurity. All those things are bubbling up, so it feels better to not be around people, so maybe other people can't see what you're trying to hide from, like what you see in yourself, you're trying to hide away from the world, so they don't also see that and pick it out from you. But then this isolation can then lead to loneliness, because girl, like months of not speaking to anyone, going to work and going home, like we know not everybody is that social at work. So, you know, this loneliness can then lead you to become even more lonely, because then people stop reaching out to be like, hey, come out, hey, what are you doing? Because then they know that, you know, she's not going to come. They stop asking you to come. So it's kind of double-edged sword, because you know when you go out, people are going to be like, and how are you doing? And then maybe you don't want to talk about how you're doing anymore. You know, all you're doing is feeling it all the time. So you're isolating, and then the physical toll on your body is maybe you're not walking around, you're not going to the gym anymore. It can affect your appetite, it can affect your sleep. All these things can happen simply because someone has left you, but they've not left you. They've left all these dreams, all these hopes, all these plans, and they're accumulating on your head, and you're like, I don't really want to eat. I don't really want to sleep. And this is a huge impact on your body. And actually, all this stress can end up impacting your health, like your heart. You know, when they say like, she died of a broken heart. Like, guys, it's legit. It's legit, because it's all these little accumulative things. It's not because someone has broken up with me and my physical heart is going to break. No, it's the stress, the depression, the no sleeping. They just build up, and suddenly cardiovascular issues. I'm not a doctor, but this is, you know, it's not a laughing matter, but it is serious. And I would say to anyone out there who's maybe dabbling in Sharmila's toxic traits, to, you know, it's good to be self-aware, absolutely, right? It's great that you're aware that, you know what, I'm doing this and I'm isolating, but I think there's also sometimes when you can over intellectualize your feelings, and you can be like, oh, I know what's going on. But just because you know what's going on doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. And I think it can be hard for people who know what's going on to be told, hey, this is probably not good for you, because they'd be like, yo, I know it's not good for me. So you're like, oh, okay, I'd rather that you didn't know, and then I could be like, oh, here's the light, this is what to do. But someone who's self-aware of what they're doing and the harm they're inflicting, it's almost hard to get them out of that cycle. So guys, I hope that from what Sharmila's saying, you can take from it that she is self-aware that the isolation is not good, but what we talked about, what leads to the isolation, you know, it just doubles and doubles and doubles, and you can find yourself overwhelmed, and it's been months before you've socialized, months before you've smiled. and it's like a winter, and the darkness lifts, and suddenly you're like, oh, okay. But you have to think, this person has broken up with me. Is it the end of the world? It could be. It could be that you've got finances together, you've got homes and children and all this, and you've got to navigate that. But if you don't have that, then you have to think, okay, now what? And then you have to find coping strategies. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight as well. But before we go through that, I just want to talk about grief there, because tonight's about a Heartbreak Hotel. We're talking about all these things, and as much as I'm laughing because I'm a happy baby girl and it's Friday, it is very serious. And grief, there's 5 stages of grief, and I've got them written down here, right? And do you know what they are?
I don't know all of them, but I roughly,
because we're here to talk about it anyway. So I mean, I feel like I knew them, but because I had to read up on them and be like, okay, no, that's so serious. So I think, and then maybe I can ask you to see if any of these relate, or if you
tick.
don't be ticking them all. So basically what it means is that these 5 stages of grief is whether someone has died or someone has left you, whatever it is grief, whatever way you slice it, it's always going to manifest in these 5 ways. And they don't come down in like, okay, number 1 I'm going to feel this, number 2 I'm going to feel that. It's like you could feel number 1, then number 4, and then number 5, and then number 2. So when I'm reading these out, don't think that, oh well, I've not had that stage yet. It could be coming for you. Okay, so the first stage is denial, and again, it's not the first thing you feel, but it's going to happen in this stage. So we've got denial, and it's like your brain just can't process what's going on. So you might find yourself saying, oh, this can't be happening to me, maybe if I talk to them again, like maybe let's just meet in person, like let me explain what happened. And you're like, no, like we've been together too long, this is not for real. So you're denying and you're denying and you're denying, and it's your mind's way of like protecting you from the shock of like, whoa, has this actually happened? So you pretend that it's not happened. You pretend that it's going to get sorted out, this, because you guys are just too strong. So that's denial. And 2 is anger. And then is when you come and you're mad at the world. Maybe you're mad at the person, or maybe you're mad at the situation that led to the breakup. Maybe it's not, again, it could have been mutual, and it could have been just the surrounding circumstances. So you become angry at that. And maybe you become even angry at yourself because you couldn't control the situation that led to the breakup happening. You're looking for someone to blame. You're looking for someone to feel the pain you're feeling. So you may be lashing out at people that don't deserve it. Maybe you're lashing out at yourself. You're treating yourself badly. All those things that I think anger. When you think of anger, you think of maybe someone beating the wall. It's not always that way. It could be you stop treating yourself well because you start to blame yourself. Like, oh, maybe that's what I get. That's a form of anger as well. And the next one, which is the 3rd stage, again, doesn't happen in the same way, but it's bargaining. And this is when you start making start making deals with the universe, right? But it's like, if I only had done one thing differently, maybe things would be okay. It's like you're trying to find a way to fix something broken, even though deep down it won't be fixed and you can't fix it, but you're still making deals with yourself to be like, okay, but if it was like this and it was like this, maybe then this would change. And if it was like that, that's bargaining, and it's not going to lead to anywhere except maybe creating hope that's not there, that will then end up disappointing you. So it's just like you're going in a roundabout when you're bargaining, in the bargaining stage, but it needs to happen because that's the only way to get through it. And then we've got depression, and when depression hits, it hits hard. And I think sometimes people they're so quick to talk about, oh girl, I'm depressed, I'm through it. But when you're really going through depression, it can affect your whole life. It can affect your work, your sleep, your food. In every single way, it can really take hold. And you can lose all hope, really. So when we're joking, you're like, oh girl, I was depressed all last weekend. No, you weren't. You were a little bit sad. You watched a few films. That's not depression. And I think it's good that we're getting better at talking about mental health and stuff. But I think as well, it can then water down certain terms. So when your friend tells you like, girl, I'm going through some depression, you can be like, ha, me too. But really, it's because Netflix has cancelled your favorite season, but someone else is in the trenches for real. And so they're like, okay, you know, this person seems to still be going to work. Maybe I should be okay as well. And it's the two are not the same. So I think, yes, let's talk about mental health. Let's use the right language when it's appropriate. I hope that's coming through. And then finally is acceptance. So it's not about forgetting what's happened. You're not just like, okay, yeah, maybe I was never with that person, but it's about accepting, you know, I was with that person, we were very happy, and now we're not. And you ground yourself in the reality, like, hey, yo, okay, I was angry, okay, I was embarrassed, okay, I was depressed, but it's not going to bring this person back. So I have to learn to live in this new life without this person. And that's maybe at that point where you start to come out of your bedroom.
Yeah.
You start to the springs start to spring, and you start to be like, hey, want to go for a coffee? And you know, it could be years now. Maybe your friends have moved on, maybe, you know, all these things could have happened, but there is no timeline to this. As I'm saying, these 5 stages happen when they happen. This could be the first thing that happens to you. You could accept the situation and then go into anger and go into depression, all these things. But again, grief is a really, really terrible thing, and I hope that whoever's going through it, it doesn't last years, months, whatever it is. But I hope that when it is happening, you can accept that whatever you've lost is valid, and just you will get through it. Basically, you will get through it. But if you'd like to join the conversation, I want to ask you, right, how much do you think society's expectations influence how we handle breakups? For example, I mean, in that, is there a timeline to be like, okay, Sharmila and X have broken up, it's been 2 months, it's now time for her to date? And if someone's like, wow, only 2 months, that's crazy. Or even we've been broken up 2 months, it's now time for a revenge body. How long is too long in terms of society? Like, you know, if you're sad for a year, are people gonna be like, girl, get over it? You know, now you're not getting sympathy anymore. Please call in and tell me if you think that there is a timeline. Do you think there's a timeline?
I think it's
Acceptable?
sometimes, I don't know, I feel like sometimes it varies from relationship. If you've been with someone for 5 years, you've got like, you know, a house, a dog, a children. I think the way society would expect you to move on might differ to someone who's been together for like 5 months, even a year. You know, some people do expect you to like get in the streets, come in the bar, like these streets are always open, so people do want you to be in the streets. So I think the relationship length does sometimes vary on like what the expectation is, but yeah, it is.
I'll ask you then. 1 year, what's the acceptable time?
Well, again, I couple, maybe like I think maybe a solid month.
A month at least. Okay,
Solid
so she's
month.
saying a year for a month.
Yeah.
If it's been 5 years, you've got
Maybe-
5 months
yeah.
to move on. Oh yeah,
But
that's a
it's,
lie.
I don't know. I think you go through the stages, right? I
Yeah.
feel like a month is enough for you to kind of move through the motions and feel your feels, right? I
Yeah.
always say go through the feels, cry
Absolutely.
it out. Like if you have to isolate yourself, that's fine, but like don't stay in it too long. I think I think that was my issue, that I stayed in it for too long, that I isolated myself too much. I didn't really reach out. I always like cut my, like I would always make plans and not come through. And I think now coming out the other end, I can see myself as doing that, and maybe in the future I'll do better. But who
In the
knows?
future. She's expecting more heartbreak.
Who knows?
I don't know if you're picking up what she's dropping.
Who knows? Life can't guarantee all these things, right? So who knows? But yeah, I think a month is like something that you can feel it and like really kind of accept. You know, if there's bargaining happening, I think it's in that month period. I think after that, you can't be going back to your ex being like, hey, big head, what's going on?
Big head?
What's going on? Like, do you miss me? You know what I mean? Like, you have to cut those ties and keep it moving, because you can't keep going back to the past. Because sometimes, like, I'm a firm believer, you know, things happen for a reason, and if it didn't work out, sometimes you can give it a try, and sometimes you can make it work, but if not, you gotta keep moving.
Now, are you a fan of the block brigade? Do you block
Listen,
your exes?
I've blocked no one. I want them to see me thriving.
Oh.
Even even if I'm not thriving, I will be out here looking like I'm thriving, because no one's
love
gonna get me
it.
down. My
Okay.
friends will know what I'm going through, but I'm not gonna let an ex see, especially if like they've done me wrong. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
let them know that, you know, I'm out here crying for them.
Yeah.
So I don't block no one.
Oh, I like that.
I'm just like, you know what, see what you see, feel what you feel. It's not on me, like,
Yeah, interesting. Please join the conversation. Call us on 0141 530 2787. I want to know how many of you are in team block them and team open that door, let them see me thrive. Because you know what? I think I'm in team let them see me thrive. Because why not?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like, why are we hiding?
blocker. No, we're no blocker. So you mentioned there about finally coming to a point where you were reaching out to friends and, you know, all of that stuff. Was it tough to reach out for support, or did you feel like you were okay at opening up about what you were going through?
I think because like going through the isolation period, I made myself feel like I wasn't really there for my friends, and that guilt kind of ate me up. And trying to reach back out, be like, oh hi, I'm back out. Do you want to socialize?
Do some things.
That guilt was still there, but I think my friends have always been like supportive. They've always understood, you know, when I'm going through something. They've always given me my space, so it wasn't hard. But I did have to like swallow my guilt and just get myself out there, because the worst that can happen is them saying, you were gone for too long. And no one has ever done that, so thankfully I've got like great friends. So yeah, I'm just like reaching out, being like, okay, let's meet, like, and it didn't have to be like in a club or like in a bar, but I'm like, let's go for coffee, you know, let's do something small. Let me come over to yours. Let me get out the house.
Let me get out of this house.
Let me breathe some fresh air. Let me do something.
No, that's great. And you know, Sharmila's saying that she's got great friends, and if you don't have great friends, we're going to ask her what kind of tips that she can give to someone like that. So thank you for listening, and here's the news at 6:30 on Jambo Radio Scotland. Welcome back to Love on the Stereo with me, Holly, from Swipe Right HQ, Scotland's premier dating agency for the Afro-Caribbean community. And this Friday we're joined by the wonderful Sharmila, and she's just been telling us about navigating her heartbreak. And if you're just joining us, of course, we're talking about Heartbreak Hotel, which is, you know, we're all gathering to discuss what it's like to go through a heartbreak. So if you do want to call in, please call 0141 530 2787. You can also text us or WhatsApp voice note us if you want to. We can change your voice and give you an auto tune or something if that's what you're after, and you're scared that people will know that it's you. But just before the break there, Sharmila was talking to us about coming through the darkness and maybe feeling a little bit embarrassed or guilty for having isolated herself so long from her friends, that initial reaching out part was kind of like, oh, maybe I've not been there for them for this long, and now I'm a little bit, you know, shaky. But I want to encourage everyone that, you know, Sharmila said she's got really great friends and stuff, but if you don't have any friends, I think that it's important maybe in that moment to find community, because you don't want to be in a place where you need community, you don't have it. So maybe there's some lessons to learn from heartbreak. If you're going through something, you have no one to go through with it, then take that as a lesson to be like, you know what, let me find some people to surround myself with, so that if this was to ever happen to me again, I have a net to fall back on. Because in that moment, you're not your best self to be seeking friends. You know, you might pick up the wrong kinds of friends, you might become codependent. So find yourself a network, so that if you do need a fallback, you've got it. And you know, tonight again we're talking about heartbreak, so I think that my next section here is about what it means to learn from heartbreak, and it's about going through the coping strategies, and we'll ask Sharmila as well what kind of coping strategies she's got here. But it's really important, such as setting boundaries. I think is one of the first things that you need to do when you're learning to get out of the darkness, the shadows of the previous pain. You need to set boundaries, not only with your ex, you know, we joked a little bit about blocking, but, you know, boundaries with yourself as well, to be like, hey, going forward, what am I going to look like in relationships? What am I going to accept? What am I going to bring forward? And vice versa with your friends and your family. You need to set those boundaries for yourself, because perhaps having those loose boundaries could have led to where you are now. Maybe not, but it's very good that if you are in this dark place, to review where you are with your boundaries as part of finding out what a healthy coping mechanism can be. So how do you go about setting these new boundaries that maybe you didn't have? Well, number one, you have to know that you have to learn. You have to be willing to learn and grow. You can't be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna set these boundaries, but I'm gonna stay exactly the same. No, you have to change, because I think heartbreak changes you, right? I don't think you can be the same person before, so even if it's a small amount of grief or a small amount of change. I think something about you changes, because everybody you meet, I think, adds a little something to your life. So even that is a change that you didn't have beforehand. So you need to accept that, I'm going through this, but let me take a lesson from it. Let me learn something. So the first thing is you have to learn to spot the red signs, it says. But we all know what a red flag is. It's like, review that relationship. Be like, okay, boom, what happened here? How did it happen? Could I have seen some of this happen? And, people like to say this came out of nowhere. But I think that if you are really truly self-aware, nothing can come out of nowhere. And, I was going to say something. I won't say it. But a lot of men would say something like, oh, she's divorcing me after 20 years. It came out of nowhere. You review that situation, you find out it was 15 years ago that she was begging for you to make small changes. So as much as spotting the red signs or spotting the red flags as a joke to us, it's really not. It's about teaching yourself to review what happened previously, so that coming forward you can be like, okay, I saw that last time, but I was in love, and maybe it's not the reason we broke up, but next time I'm gonna know that that's not right. And also it's knowing what we want. Why were you in that previous relationship? Why do you want the next relationship? Why do you want a relationship at all? What about it do you want? Do you just want to be with someone? Do you want someone to tell you that you're beautiful? Do you want someone to spend money on you? If you know what you want, you're going to the next place and you won't be heartbroken. Because if you're going in because you just want someone to spend money on you, when you break up, you'll be like, at least they spend money on me, But if you're not defining what it is you want from that person, you're going to end up in the same situation again and again. And being there for others is a great coping strategy. As Sharmila was saying, there's this guilt that comes from isolating herself from the friends, but I think that heartbreak creates a sort of empathy, and it changes you to, maybe you see someone else suffer and you could be like, oof, I see the signs, I was there at one point. Listen, if you're where I am, at one point I never even wanted to call anybody, but listen, maybe we can go out and sit in the park in silence, because it creates this thing where maybe if someone had did it for you, it would have been great. So I encourage you to be there for others, even when you feel like you've got nothing to bring to the table because you're just overly sad or overly wanting to be alone. Your presence, your friends are there with you because they love you, and even though you're sad or happy, they want to be there with you. So I'd encourage you to try and lessen the isolation that we were talking about earlier, and take care of yourselves. Talk it out. I love to talk about communication on this show, like you guys know, even if when the mic goes off I can keep talking, right? But talking it out, and you can't talk it out enough, because I think if you meet with one friend and you talk it out, you meet with another friend, you talk it out, everyone brings different aspects out of you, so you could find another angle, or your friend could give you another perspective that you hadn't seen from another friend. So the more you talk it out, the more you can maybe get a balanced view of what happened or how you can come out of it, and people could give you different sorts of advice. So when you think, I'm so self-aware, I'm going to go through this by myself, and I'm going to look in the mirror, I'm going to journal, it's all very internalized. It can become a vacuum. There's no new advice that you can give to yourself. As much as you're watching self-help YouTube and reading a self-help book, it's not the same as talking it out, because someone can reply with a real gem that you couldn't have got out without that kind of open communication. And just encourage you to be brave again and be like, hey, yo, despite this pain, like I'm going through it right now. Maybe even review previous times that you've been heartbroken. Maybe it's your first time. Maybe minimize it to be like, that time my football team didn't win. I don't know anything about football, but I've seen men cry, so I imagine that's what heartbreak is like. But yeah, whatever comes your way, you can definitely tackle it with courage and resilience, and be proactive about it and be like, okay, yeah, this is heartbreak because of XYZ, But, write it down. Have a, I love a HR meeting. Have an HR meeting with yourself and be like, it was this many years. And, you could still be like, okay, I'm so in love with this person. I'm so in pain about what happened. But, challenge yourself and be like, okay, what is the bad things about this person? Looking forward 20 years, how could this person have become a bad person? Maybe you need to gaslight yourself a little bit to see what could happen. What do you think about gaslighting yourself?
Sometimes you have to take your rose tinted glasses off and really see people for what they are. Sometimes you see what you want to see, and I think that's why sometimes you want to keep going back. Sometimes you want to put yourself in those kind of situations. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, nah, this is how it was, and you have to speak it out loud as well. And I think one thing that people do a lot of times in relationships is like they mask a lot of the things that they're going through. So when you break up and you tell your friend, oh, you broke up, and they're like, oh wait, what was going on? And then you go and say, oh, XYZ was happening, and they're like, oh right, we didn't know, you know. So I think it's really important to like speak on things, and I don't agree on people like going into too much detail about like your relationship problems while in the relationship. I think you have to keep like some kind of privacy and some kind of like
that's a good point.
Privacy to yourself. But again, I think something that can be taken away from even being private is you have to still, if he's like doing something bad, you still have to talk on it. You can't keep like, I can't mask this, and then all of a sudden you break up and you're like, oh, he's been hitting me, you know what I mean? And no one knew about it.
No one could have helped you.
And I think community is like important in any capacity. So like speaking about it is 100% like something that really does help you when you do get to the other side. Like your friends will be there for you. They'll understand, but like, you know what, sometimes you don't remember the things that you went through as bad. So sometimes they can remind you, be like, babe, remember he did this to you, and remember when you went through this.
And you know what, I just want to say, your friends never forget.
Never.
If you go to your friend, you'll be like, and he did this and she did this.
This is a perfect reason why you can't be telling your business to everyone, because your friends will remember. You'll forgive him, but your friends will remember.
Next week you're happy again, and they're like, oh, and this one, okay, I'll never forgive him, but okay, carry on. You guys have that pillow talk and you can forgive each other, but your friend is not joining that pillow talk. So as Sharmila says, be careful about just how much you share while you are still in that relationship, because it can also damage you. People can give you unfriendly advice for whatever reason, maybe because you told them that thing. Now they're hating on that person, and the next time something happens, they'll be like, and also, and they can just really mix the pot. So it's not really required. But as we talk about coping strategies, and going through heartbreak means accepting that I'm going to learn something. Looking back, what are some important lessons that you've learned from heartbreak, and how did they shape the relationships that you want to go into going forward?
So I think going forward, I've had codependency issues, right?
Okay.
So
girls, we have a self-aware queen right here. Okay.
So I feel like going forward, it's one of those things like I want to be more independent in myself, like not feeling like I have to crave so much from other people to go forward in that relationship. I want to like invest more time into myself in relationships, and not really rely on them as
and what
much.
Does that look like practically?
I think some couples really want to be like living together, working together, we spend the weekend together. Sometimes it's like, okay, you know what, let me take one weekend, let me go and spend it with my family, let me take one weekend, let me spend it with the girls. And I think that's where you find the balance. Sometimes you need to let people miss you to like really enjoy your presence as well, like coming together and having that talk as well, being like, oh, I did this, like let's talk about like what you did, let's have communication, like you say, right? So I think one of my main takeaways is like not being so dependent on like another person, and like finding time to really fuel myself and put more time into myself and the things that I want to do. That's one of the biggest takeaways.
That's a really good point. And I think that we can all say that we know someone, or maybe you've seen it in a film or a celebrity, where somebody dates someone and they like almost morph into that new person. Cough cough, Kourtney Kardashian. I think that you can see that someone is maybe starting to wear more leather or starting to be more sporty. And I think codependency, it could be a whole topic on its own, but I think it's really damaging to a relationship, because then someone can become your whole world, literally. And so if you were to ever break up, then literally your whole world is falling apart. And you never want to rely on someone to that level. You want to have a level of yourself outside. I think last week's conversation, we were talking about going into marriage and having to know who you are before you go in there, because if you don't know who you are, someone's going to tell you who you are. Oh no, like you know, we watch football on a Friday. You might not have any strong feelings about football, so you will start to watch it. Before you know it, you're now a football babe or guy, but it's not really who you are. And so I say this to say what Sharmila said is really, really important. Being self-aware is great, but codependency is probably one of the things that can lead to a real crippling heartbreak situation, because this person has become a pillar in your life, in your social life, in your home life, maybe even in your work life. They've touched every area of your life because you've allowed them to, and you've not given yourself a little side world. So when this whole world crumbles, your side world is just your bedroom and your bed. So don't let that happen to yourself, and that's a great lesson to learn. I hope that you guys are taking notes, because that was a really good point. And just, you know, we don't have too much time left, which is crazy because I've barely talked tonight. When you've been through the toughest time, how do you make sure that you take care of yourself, especially when you're feeling really down and stressed out? Or do you not take care of yourself?
I mean, I'll be honest, you know, taking care of yourself is probably like the least thing in my mind, but I think when you're coming out of it, it's like spending time. I'm really prioritizing spending more time with myself and doing things I like, and trying not to isolate myself too much. So trying to come out and really have me time, you know, go to the cinema, go get some food, like go for a walk.
And that's important for someone who's self-identified as being codependent, because that could be hard for someone who's used to always having a meal with someone, always being on the phone with someone. It's important to be like, okay, no, I'm gonna go by myself and sit alone in a coffee shop. So that's really
sometimes
good.
sitting in your silence is like, you know, your greatest fear, but sometimes you have to do it.
Some of us live in our headphones. Are you gonna come here and attack me on my own show?
You need to really sit in yourself. I think really sit in with your thoughts and really go through it. And I think one of the things like really in the healing stages, like going through the motions and not trying to like suppress them or numb them, and feeling the feelings, crying it out, getting it out there, so you're not like, you know, 5 months down the line still thinking about the person and being like, oh, I miss them, let me call them, let me see what's happening. And it's
not the redial.
Sometimes you have to delete the number, not block them. You know what I mean?
Okay, write that down. Write that down.
So yeah, like I think that in all of those healing phases, like one of the main things was like spending time with myself, and you know, prioritizing like getting out there, going to the gym, like main thing. I think exercise has really like been one of the focal points for myself, like being able to spend time with myself, and also like, you know, be physically active as well.
And those endorphins at the gym, they really do something to
I'm telling you, I thought these people were lying, but sometimes you come out of the gym and you feel like you can conquer the world,
and then you're like, why is it true? Why do I feel better?
I hate to say it, but it's one of those things. So
and just before we wrap up, one of the things about heartbreak is, you know, when you get to that acceptance level of the grief, is the forgiveness, because you've got to forgive yourself, you've got to forgive the person. I mean, I guess you don't have to forgive the person, but the longer you hold this maybe grudge or this anger or whatever towards that person, they're not going to feel that every day, but you will. You know, every time you see something that reminds you of them, you're going to feel somehow. So it's always best to forgive the person and forgive yourself, just for yourself more than for them. You know, you don't have to tell them, and I have forgiven you. No, that's not important. But asking you specifically, Sharmila, what is the advice you'd give to people who are struggling to forgive or even struggling to move on after a breakup?
I think we all struggle, so forgiveness should really be at the forefront. If you're forgiving everyone else, if you're in that bad relationship and you're forgiving them over and over again for you know what they're doing, why are we holding ourselves, like, you know, and thinking we're not worthy of like that same forgiveness? And I think, you know, sometimes you can't see the red flag. Sometimes you love them too much that you want to see past it. You think better days are coming. You've like, you know, planned this whole future out, and like having that stripped away from you feels, you know, too much. But sometimes you have to forgive yourself for not seeing that and feeling like you deserve better. You have to know that you deserve better to get better. And
I hope you guys are writing this down. I need to be telling you guys to bring a pen and a paper whenever I have a guest on, because what gem.
I think that's one of the main takeaways as well, just like feeling like you do deserve better. You do deserve to be in a relationship that you're loved, that you're accepted, that, you know, they're there for you. So that's why you should be forgiving yourself, because you don't deserve to be in a bad relationship, you know. If you think about it, like your friends love you and like they'll be there for you through thick and thin, right? And it's like your man is like sometimes like out here treating you bad, but you're taking them back and over again. So why are you doing that? Like you need to hold yourself really accountable in the same sense. And like once you forgive yourself, like you open yourself up to like, you know, better opportunities. And that's one.
Just a side note, I recently watched, you know, one of these Reddit things that someone writes, like, am I the ATA, right? And this guy said, I've finally forgiven my ex for catching me cheating. And I thought, oh, hello. What do you mean? So in the story, he talks about how they were very happy together, and he would sporadically cheat. And then this one time, she finally caught him, and she has rumbled their whole life. But it's been a few months or a few years now, and you know he's taking some time, and he's ready to forgive her, because what about all those times that she didn't catch him, and they managed to still be happy together? How dare she throw
audacity.
something good away? So yeah, forgive yourselves. Maybe not if you're this guy. If you're this guy, continue to punish yourself, please, right? And if you could go back to pre-breakup, pre-relationship, whatever it is, go back, pick a time and go back to it. And tell yourself something about the breakup that's coming or that's happening, what would that thing be?
I think one of the things I would tell myself, it's going to be okay. You know, it's okay. Sometimes, you know, you have to get your heart broken. Sometimes you have to kiss the frogs like that come up. You can't, you're not going to be in the, like, you know, the pond forever. It's okay. Like better days. Better days are coming, you know. I went through my phone gallery recently, and one time I had, you know, took a picture of myself really when I was going through it, when I was crying. And then recently I went
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the situation.
Sometimes you have to do that,
just
right?
like crying and be like, wait.
I don't know why. I just thought to myself, let me take a picture.
No,
let me leave it there, because I know this isn't gonna last. And this moment is going to pass. Like they say, it will always pass. And I took my phone out, I took a picture, and then I think it was like months later, I was like clearing out my gallery, and I found that picture, and I almost laughed at myself, because I was like, girl, you were really going through it. You really thought that was it. You thought that was the end of the world, and look at you now. Look at you here living. Look at you thriving, and you did that, you know. And it's going to be the same. Like, I'm not saying like, you know, heartbreak is never going to come, but it might come again. It might come in the worst situations or the best situations, but sometimes you have to just get on with life.
Love that.
So yeah.
And you know, hindsight is 2020, and I 100%. Think, you know, this thing about Sharmila taking a picture of herself mid-cry, I did laugh, but I think that's really, it captures the moment. You know, we're quite techie people these days, but if you were to put that into like the 1800s, that would be someone journaling about them crying that day. And I think it's important, even now, if you can journal, to do that and write down what you're feeling in that moment, because that moment always passes, and you might look back at it and be like, oh my God, I was so sad at that point. But you can't, if you wrote about it and read it back, it would be more than I was sad. It would be something deeper, you know, and you get to know yourself in those deep, sad moments. So if you are in the midst of a cry, take a picture of yourself, even video yourself crying and talking to yourself if you don't want to write it down, because you're never going to feel that moment that you're feeling again. It will pass, as Sharmila says. And lastly, before we wrap up tonight, what's one thing you'd want our listeners to take away from your experience with heartbreak tonight?
I guess I'm going to repeat myself and say it will pass. It's not going to be the end of the world, and that moment in time, I 100% believe that, you know, you do believe this that is the end. That's it. There's never going to be better days. Like, you've lost everything. You have to, like, what you're going to do now? How are you supposed to, you know, love again? Like, I feel like that again is like another burden you feel, because, you know, you're opening yourself up to a fresh person, and
you're like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to date again.
And like I think the fear of like being heartbroken again like puts you off like dating. But it's something you have to just keep putting yourself out there. You know, one person is going to like stay. Like it's gonna stick one time, and sometimes sometimes you have to keep trying. Okay. And try until you can't fail all the time. You'll master it one day, and like the right person will come around. And I think one thing is just like, don't think it's the end of the world. It is the end of the world right now, but it's not forever.
That world, you know, there's many worlds going on at the same time.
And it's fine to, you know, think that world is ending, but it's okay, because you can build another world. You can build
guys, write this down. What's happening?
You can build a whole universe if you want to. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you have to get yourself through that, and that's the hardest part, but you'll always get through it. You know, you have to have community. You have to have the people around you. If you don't have great friends, you know, like, rely on your cousin, a family member, someone, anyone anyone. But I'm not here for work friends, but sometimes, you know,
That's a different topic.
sometimes, like, you know, work people do become friends and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just build community where there's relatability with someone.
Yeah.
Build something. Have someone, you know, you can go for a coffee with. Like, you know, that kind of friendship, that will be the one that like takes you through. Better days are coming.
Amazing.
Everyone's gonna be fine.
Better days are coming. What a sentence to end tonight's conversation on. And I hope that you've enjoyed my guest tonight, Sharmila. And Sharmila, we've got a few minutes left to go. What do you have to tell the audience as we wrap up tonight?
Listen, I'm out here.
Are you single and searching? Is
I'm
what
single.
I'm hitting at.
I'm single. I don't know if I'm searching, to be honest.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think I'm still in my healing era.
Amen.
And I think one of my self-awareness things is that I don't want to get into a situation where I don't feel like I've really ended from one. Yeah. And I don't think it's a service to myself or the person I'm getting into. So I'm really trying to make sure I'm in the right headspace to move forward, and I can give myself and the person like my all at some, you know, capacity. So
the self-aware queen tonight has spoken. She's single, but she's not searching.
Not ready to mingle.
And not ready to mingle. And that's an important point. You can be single and happy being single. Yes. And if you're searching, I hope that you're as self-aware as this queen is tonight. So thank you to Sharmila for coming on to our show tonight. And thank you to all of you for listening. If you want to catch up on the show, you can do that over YouTube on Jambo Radio Scotland. Or you can catch up on Facebook or even at the Jambo Radio app. And so I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you for listening to Love on the Stereo with me, your host, Holly from Swipe Right HQ. Have a lovely weekend.